Hi everyone, this is Blake Anderson and I'm a videographer here in Toronto, Ontario. And in this video, I'm going to be covering the way in which you can enhance your videography with AI images in Final Cut Pro, particularly using magic masks, the relatively new feature in Final Cut Pro. So in this video, I'm going to be covering primarily Midjourney, so that's AI image program and company that allows you to generate AI images. And I would say it's generally the higher quality in terms of what you can get with AI creation. And so in this video, I'm going to be covering how you can create a more professional look to your presentations. So if you really want to up the production value of your videos, and you also use AI to generate, typically what I do is a background image. So it's a little more subtle than having it right front and center in terms of using B-roll. But the way I like using AI is conceptualize and illustrate my concepts. So if there's something I'm wanting to convey, if I input that into AI, it gives usually a really good image in terms of conveying what I want. So in this video, I'm going to be covering how you can first generate these images, how I'm going to be taking some inspiration from the Peterson Academy. So that's Jordan Peterson's Academy, where they do a really good job of highlighting quotes and main concepts and definitions. I'm going to teach you how to do something similar in Final Cut Pro, where you generate these images. Typically what I can do and what I'll teach you how to do is using a transcript. You can then, from your transcript of your video, come up with 10 main concepts and image ideas. And using AI, generate those 10 concepts in terms of image prompts. And then from those image prompts, you can input them into the Midjourney. And then I'll also be walking through how to use magic masks, so that way you can convey yourself in front of the image and the quote. So it gives a really cool professional look, and you can also have a background that's blurred or has an animation to it. Stick to this video where I'm going to walk you through how you can use AI images to give a very nice, clean, and professional look to your videos. When you first open up, what you're going to do is you're going to go to Midjourney. I have Midjourney open, and you can see here I created this nature image. You can create all these types of looks. This is more for another channel where for my website I was trying to generate some images. As you can see here, many different examples of images that I created using Midjourney. And in terms of you just go like this, Midjourney, you have to get a pro subscription if you want to have access to Midjourney. If you download and access the pro version of Midjourney, you can generate 4 images at once. And then you can also customize it, so it's really helpful in Midjourney, is you can customize the look and feel of your images. And then you can download them all at once. Typically I would go through, select them, download them, and then to get better quality, use Topez Photo AI. And so Topez Photo AI basically will allow you to up the resolution. So typically when you're generating AI images, you're not getting the full quality typically. This allows you to upscale the image so that when you're in Final Cut Pro and in the video, they're very sharp images versus more blurred images. So let's just take an example here. So I'm gonna upload these about 7 images. And then what I'll do is I'll just select them all, I'll apply autopilot. And for some reason it's not generating the image here, but typically you would have a way to see your image. But I think you get the idea that on the right here it shows that it's going to denoise, sharpen it, and then upscale it. In upscaling, I can ensure that it's graphics. So that's typically the AI model I'll be using. Once I have all these 7 images, I'm going to click Apply Autopilot and export the images to a TIFF file and save them to my hard drive. And I can add those images to my Final Cut Pro. This is a video I recently created. You can see different ways that you can incorporate images. Let's say you just wanted it in the background. So let's say that you see my image here, right? So I want to have some text here, and I might want to move myself a little bit to the, or I guess the way it was shot is on my left. In Final Cut Pro, you search for magic. So you first go to masks. So in Final Cut Pro, in the effects, you're going to find masks and keying. And then this is a relatively new feature to Final Cut Pro, but basically you just drag and drop it onto the video that you want to create a mask for. And then using, let's say, AI, it's going to allow you to select the subject. Typically you're going to have a subject, and it has to be relatively the ability for it to tell the difference between the background and the subject. Final Cut 90% of the time, if not higher, does a very good job of selecting the object. So as you can see here, it's highlighting myself. It's going to go through each frame and create a mask of my subject so that I can then erase the background. It typically will take, depending on the speed of your computer, some time to generate. So you may want to grab a coffee or just wait. As you can see here, it's highlighting my subject, going through each frame and doing a really good job of capturing all the different aspects of my image. So it generated myself as the subject, and then you click this little button here of this person, and then the background will be disappeared. And then the cool thing you can do is add anything beneath this mask. You could do double layers, so you could have both a layer that doesn't have a mask and then a layer that has a mask. That way you can blend the background, but also have some form of text or effect between the layers. So that's a really nice way to subtly introduce different quotes or text or images, but then also still retaining the background. And I'll show you how to do both. Let's say I wanted to do a background. I have different plugins, mostly from Motion VFX. So I would encourage you to check them out. They have a host of different plugins. One of the ones I like is it's Present, so it's like focus on presentations. And then in that, they have a background like this. I can put that underneath the image of myself, put an image behind it. I'm going to turn the animation in and out just because it's going to not then have any black on it. I'm just going to turn off some of these elements because it's a bit too distracting for me. And then I could change the colors. So I typically like going with these colors that I already have for a lot of my projects. So I'll select that and create some different kinds of colors. And so you see that already. That's really helping, nice way to keep me highlighted, but then have a background that's animated. And then if I wanted to move my subject here just a little bit so that I'm giving a little bit more room for the text, I would just do that. Move it over a bit. If you wanted to lower it a little, because my head was cut off, I can only really move it vertically. But if my head wasn't cut off, I could lower it as well, so it would look more blended. But that's basically what you do. And then let's just say another plugin I have is quotes. So that gives a really nice way that you can add a quote. So I'll put that underneath this main clip that's masked again. As you can see here, my subject is over top of the text. If I had different animations, you'd be subtle, but in this situation, I might not need to do that. As you can see here, I can put an image there and then I could have a quote, similar to what Jordan Peterson was doing. With images, you can see here I have all these TIFF files. That's going to make it better quality. So then I'm going to put that underneath myself as a subject here. If all of them are selected, I can click on my fade, and then I'm going to do a simple crossfade. So if I double click on cross dissolve, it's going to naturally fade them, right? And then I'm going to make that into a compound clip. So Option G, and then I create a compound clip. Select them all, cross dissolve, and then I'm going to go out of the compound clip. As you can see here, I have the images behind me, right? And then what I might do is move the picture up it a little bit in terms of the scale. You can go into effects, and then I'm going to go back to masks. So let me find it here, mask. In masks, you can also do a gradient mask. So on top of the gradient mask, I'm going to click that on top of the image and do it more vertically like that. You can see it gives a nice subtle way to blend it into the background. And then if you can see the quote here, quote's on top. And because it's white, it doesn't really blend in. So what you could also do is make this black. If I made it black, it's still not showing up as much, but you can also, let me see here, white. So I'm going to drag just a white image that I have here. And then I'm going to just, this is just this white square, a bit bigger. The same thing I'm going to do is put a gradient mask on this whiteness here and make it vertical. These are on top. So I'm going to select the quote and the white, and I'm going to put on top of not on top of my subject, but just between the two layers. You can see here, but the white's too dark, right? So what I might do is go into the white here and ensure that it's a little bit more transparent. So the opacity, I'm going to lower the opacity a bit, and that way you can still see. So I might do about 40% or 30. So it just blends the image and the quote, so the quote can stand out more, right? It's more pronounced, so you can really read it. So it gives it more professional because it's blending these layers in to the image, which makes it just more professional and makes it stand out. It's cleaner and does a better job. Yeah, that's just a very subtle way to add a quote. You can still see the background, and basically what it is, I create two layers. You're going to want to turn off the audio for one layer so that you're not doubling the audio. And then you have this layer that has, you should take off the mask, so you don't need the mask on the second bottom layer. You have the image in terms of, it's usually the opacity is a little bit lowered. In this situation, I had a gradient mask on top of it, and you might also want to lower the opacity just a bit. And that way you can still see the background. You might want to put a white square image using the gradient on top so that it blends a bit more in. And I might lower that a little bit so it's subtler. And then you see here I can put a quote on top of that, so that gives a nice look to the quote. And then here I would have to mask, and that's the way that I create a nice looking background. At the end I might select all these layers and then make a compound clip. And then from that, I might add a bit of finishing effect. So I'm using Magic Bullet looks and Mojo, particularly sharpening the image. So typically when I'm finishing, I'm going to add a bit of noise, so some compression proofing, and some sharpening just so the image looks the best. And then you're applying that to all the layers. So in this video, I walked through how you can add nice looking AI images using Midjourney. And I also showed how you can use animated backgrounds as well to allow yourself to stand out as the subject. So you're creating a magic mask on the subject, and then you're having the quote and the images subtly animate behind you as you talk. This way you can emphasize your message, similar to the Peterson Academy. It really emphasizes your words and gives a bit more context to what you're saying. I would say that this is a great way of upping your production value and making your videos look a lot more professional.